Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. Late on a random Tuesday night. My phone buzzed on a nightstand, lighting up the darkroom like it had something important to say. I almost ignored it, but then I saw the sender's name. Mom. I opened the message. The property is sold. We changed the locks on the garage. You're officially out. Try surviving on your own now. Haha. I read it twice, then a third time. The words themselves were rough, but that last part? That wasn't anger. That wasn't frustration. That was celebration. They weren't just cutting me off. They were throwing a victory party and inviting themselves to laugh at me. And weirdly enough, I didn't cry. I didn't freak out. I didn't even feel sad. Something colder slid into place. A calm, focused kind of rage. The kind that clears your head instead of clouding it. I set my phone down slowly and stared at the wall of my quiet apartment. They thought locking a door ended everything. They thought the garage was the business. Big mistake. They forgot who built the backbone. I opened my laptop, the glow filling the room. Within seconds, I logged into the main auto parts supplier account for Detroit's biggest distributor. Account holder, Emily Carter. Payment method, my personal credit card. Guarantee, also me. I saw the order my dad had placed earlier that day. 12 rebuilt transmissions scheduled for morning delivery. I canceled it. Next stop, the equipment leasing portal. That fancy diagnostic machine they love bragging about online. Yeah, that lease was under my name too. Canceled. Then the tire supplier. 24 performance tires on recurring order. Canceled. By 12:03 a.m., just minutes after that smug text, their entire operation was dead in the water. No parts. No tools. No deliveries. They wouldn't even be able to buy a wrench without me signing off. By sunrise, the shop would be useless. And honestly, I smiled. To understand why I had that level of control and why I felt zero guilt, you need to understand my family. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, and I've been carrying my family's business on my back for almost a decade. The garage was started by my grandfather, but for the last 10 years, it was mine, even if nobody wanted to admit it. My dad, Walter, played the role of boss. Big smiles, firm handshakes, lots of talking. Ask him to explain the difference between a torque wrench and a ratchet, though, he'd freeze. My mom, Judith, only cared about appearances. To her, the garage wasn't a business. It was a status symbol. Then there was my younger sister, Brianna, 24. Pretty, popular, the golden child. My mom lived through her like it was a second life. Brianna never worked a single day at the shop. She claimed she was allergic to grease. Nah, she was allergic to effort. Me? I was the responsible one. Sounds nice, right? In our family, it was a life sentence. While my sister got a fully paid business degree in cash for designer work clothes, I was sweeping floors at 15. By 19, I was rebuilding engines. By 22, I wasn't just a lead mechanic. I was a bookkeeper, inventory manager, supplier contact, and problem solver. When money disappeared, I filled the gap. When things almost collapsed, I held them up. Over 5 years, I poured $195,000 of my own money into that garage. Not loans they repaid. Not investments they thanked me for. Just money I was expected to give. Why didn't I walk away? Because when you grow up being loved only when you're useful, you don't see the exit. You think holding everything together is your job. You're scared that if you stop, the whole thing crashes. And somehow it'll still be your fault. So you keep going, waiting, hoping one day they'll finally say, "We see you." That day never comes. And at exactly 7 a.m. the next morning, my phone exploded. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. My dad was yelling. My sister was annoyed. My mom was posting online about ungrateful children. Not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one apologized. They weren't mad about hurting me. They were mad because the money tap got shut off. And in that moment, I realized something important. They didn't lose me. They lost their control. They thought this was just a family fight. They had no clue they just triggered lawyers, lawsuits, and a secret that would burn everything down. I didn't answer a single call. Not my dad's angry voicemails. Not my sister's annoyed texts. Not my mom's fake sad Facebook post fishing for sympathy. I let them spiral. Instead, I made coffee, real slow, like someone who finally had time to breathe. Then I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Paige Reynolds. The voice said on the other end, calm, sharp, confident. Paige was my old college roommate. We survived finals week, cheap ramen, and absolute chaos together. Now, she was a partner at one of the toughest business law firms in Detroit. Hey, I said quietly. It's Emily. She paused. Okay, this already sounds serious. What's going on? I told her everything. The unpaid labor, the money, the ha-ha text, the locks change. The exact numbers, $195,000. There was silence on the line. Not the awkward kind, the dangerous kind. Finally, Paige spoke. And when she did, her voice dropped a few degrees. Emily, they didn't just screw you over. What you're describing is unjust enrichment and possibly promissory estoppel. I blinked. Say that again, but in normal human language. She exhaled softly. It means they took your money, your work, your credit, promised ability, and then dump you once they thought you were no longer useful. I leaned back in my chair. So I'm not crazy? No, she said flatly. They are. I swallowed. I want my money back. Paige didn't hesitate. Good, because you're getting it. By noon that same day, Paige had already drafted a formal demand letter. Not an email, not a text. A legal courier delivered it straight to my parents' house. Front door, signature required. The letter gave them two options. Option 1, start a legally binding repayment plan for the full $195,000. Option 2, grant me 50% ownership of the land sale they were finalizing behind my back. If they ignored it, if they tried to play dumb, Paige would file a lawsuit immediately. Interest, legal fees, and all. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was business. And I came prepared. 2 days passed. Then Paige called again, but this time her tone was different. Emily, sit down. My stomach dropped. What now? I looked into the property sale, she said. The buyer isn't random. I frowned. What do you mean? The LLC buying the land is owned by Samuel Thorne. That name hit me like a brick. Samuel Thorne, my sister's fiancé's father. I felt cold all over. They sold it to him? I whispered. Paige didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, this wasn't a sale. It was a setup, a deal to secure your sister's future. Everything clicked. The locks, the timing, the confidence in that ha-ha. They didn't just cut me out. They cashed me out. My money, my work, my life, traded to upgrade my sister's social status. I sat there, staring at nothing. Paige continued, quieter now. Emily, that's not even the worst part. What? I snapped. I paid it so he wouldn't default. Paige's voice turned ice cold. He couldn't default because you were already listed as a guarantor. My heart slammed. That's impossible. No, she said. He forged your signature. The room spun. Emily, if that loan had collapsed, the bank would have come after you. Your apartment, your savings, everything. I couldn't breathe. All those years, I wasn't helping. I was covering up a felony. Suddenly, that haha text made sense. They didn't lock me out because I was unnecessary. They locked me out because the deal was done and the witness was no longer needed. Paige broke the silence. This isn't just civil anymore. This is criminal. I opened my eyes. Then let it burn, I said. Paige smiled on the other end. I could hear it in her voice. Good, she replied, because I already filed a fraud complaint. They thought selling the land would secure my sister's future. They had no idea it would expose a crime and destroy the deal completely. The moment the fraud complaint went live, everything shifted. It was like flipping a switch. The confident silence from my family? Gone. The fake superiority? Vaporized. My phone started blowing up again, but this time the tone was different. No yelling. No lectures. Just raw panic. My dad left 3 voicemails in under 10 minutes. His voice cracked in every single one. Emily, listen, this is getting way out of hand. You don't understand what you're doing. Call me back. Now. My sister texted next. You're seriously ruining my life. This has gone too far. Still not an apology. Still all about her. Then my mom. Not a message. A call. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Meanwhile, Paige called me with an update that honestly felt unreal. You're gonna love this, she said. Samuel Thorne just contacted his lawyers. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess he's not thrilled. Not even a little, she laughed. He's threatening to walk away from the land deal entirely. That got my attention. Why? I asked. Because no wealthy developer wants her family name tied to a fraud investigation, Paige replied. Especially when his son is supposed to marry into it. I leaned back and exhaled slowly. The deal they sold me out for? Starting to crumble. That night, around 9 p.m., someone started pounding on my apartment door like the building was on fire. I checked the peephole. My mom. No perfect hair. No polished smile. Just red eyes and shaking hands. I opened the door. Emily, please, she sobbed immediately. You have to stop this. I crossed my arms. Stop what exactly? This lawsuit, she said. Thorne is backing out. The wedding might be canceled. Brianna's future. I cut her off. Interesting. When you locked me out, you didn't seem worried about my future. She flinched. She's your sister, my mom whispered. Family helps family. That line, the same line they used every time they needed something. I looked at her calmly. Family doesn't forge signatures. She froze. Paige was right. They hadn't expected me to know. We can fix this. My mom rushed. We'll pay you back. Just, please, do this for the family. I nodded slowly. Okay. Hope lit up her face instantly. I already did. I added. Her smile vanished. I handed her a folded document. What's this? She asked. A copy of the criminal complaint. I said, file with the district attorney, and forwarded to Mr. Thorne. Her face went ghost white. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did, I repeated. She backed away like I just slapped her. Good night, Mom, I said, closing the door. The fallout was immediate. By morning, Samuel Thorne officially withdrew from the land purchase. The engagement was postponed, which is rich people code for dead on arrival. My sister sent me a message I'll never forget. I hope you're happy. I was, not because they were hurting, but because I was finally free. A week later, Paige called again. They're done, she said simply. Their lawyers want to settle. The evidence was airtight. Forged documents, financial records, emails. They didn't stand a chance. The terms were brutal. They had to sell the garage property at public auction immediately, after debts and penalties were paid. The remaining funds would be split. My dad accepted a fraud conviction, probation, fines, and a permanent stain on his record. When the wire transfer hit my account, I stared at the screen. $400,000. I opened my old spreadsheet, the one I'd updated obsessively for years. $195,000. That number represented lost sleep, missed chances, years of being the responsible one. I highlighted the file and deleted it. That night, I slept like I hadn't in years. No alarms, no stress, no weight on my chest. Justice isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming yourself. And 6 months later, I made my final move. I bought a rundown garage on the other side of Detroit, cleaned it up, painted the walls, bought brand new equipment in my name. Today, Carter Auto Tech is open, bright, honest, mine. This morning, a nervous apprentice looked at me and asked, "Am I ready?" I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "You got this." Because for the first time in my life, I chose myself. They thought they owned my loyalty. Turns out, I own my future. People think the hardest part is a fight. It's not. The hardest part comes after. When the noise dies down, the calls stop, and you're left alone with the truth. Once the settlement papers were signed and the money cleared, my family disappeared from my life almost overnight. No more angry texts. No fake concern. No, we should talk. Just silence. At first, it felt weird, like phantom limb syndrome. I kept expecting my phone to buzz with another emergency that somehow only I could fix. But it never came. And slowly, that silence started to feel peaceful. I didn't move right away. I stayed in my apartment for a few weeks, just letting my nervous system calm down. Years of being on edge don't shut off instantly. My body was still waiting for the next crisis. That's when the guilt tried to creep back in. Late at night, I'd hear my mom's voice in my head. You ruined your sister's future. I had to remind myself of the truth. I didn't ruin anything. I stopped letting myself be used. There's a difference. Paige checked in on me often. Not as a lawyer, as a friend. You know, she said one afternoon, most people never get this kind of clean break. I laughed softly. Didn't feel clean. No, she admitted, but it was necessary. She was right, because once the fog cleared, I started seeing things differently. Moments from childhood I'd brushed off before suddenly made sense. How praise only came when I overperformed. How love always had conditions. I wasn't raised to be a daughter. I was trained to be a safety net. So I made a rule for myself. If something felt like obligation instead of respect, I said no. The first time I did it, my hands literally shook. But the world didn't end. Then came the garage. Buying my own shop wasn't about revenge. It was about proof. Proof that I could build something without bleeding for it. I chose a rundown place on the east side. Broken lights, peeling paint, bad reputation. Perfect. I rebuilt it the way I wish my family business had been run. Transparent books, fair pay, zero guilt tripping. No, we're family here, nonsense. Just respect. Word spread fast. Customers like knowing exactly what they were paying for. Employees like not being emotionally blackmailed. Funny how that works. One afternoon, I got an email I didn't expect. From my sister. Short, careful, defensive. I never wanted things to go this far. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, neither did I. And that was it. No reunion. No forgiveness speech. No dramatic closure. Just reality. Some bridges don't get rebuilt, and that's okay. A few weeks later, my mom tried one last time. She left a voicemail. We miss you. Families fight. That doesn't mean you throw everything away. I didn't call back. Because I hadn't thrown anything away. I had finally picked myself up. The real cost of freedom isn't money. It's accepting that some people will never see you as anything but what they can take from you. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. I thought the story was over, until a final truth surfaced that reframed everything I'd survived. Freedom does something funny to you. Once the chaos is gone, your brain finally has room to think. And when it does, it starts connecting dots you ignored for years. Running my own garage gave me that space. Customers would come in stressed, half expecting to be lied to. When I explained repairs clearly and treated them like actual humans, some of them looked shocked. One guy laughed and said, "Wow, my own family doesn't explain stuff this calmly." That line stuck with me, because the truth hit hard. What I went through wasn't rare. It was a pattern. People stopped by the shop just to talk sometimes. Not about cars, about life. About being the responsible one. The fixer. The backup plan nobody thanks. One woman told me she paid her parents' mortgage while her brother found himself. Another guy admitted he'd been covering his family's debts for years because they called him selfish whenever he hesitated. Different stories. Same trap. And suddenly, I saw my own past clearly. My family didn't wake up one day and decide to hurt me. They slowly learned that I would absorb everything, stress, debt, blame, without pushing back. So they kept pushing. That realization didn't make me angry. It made me done. A few months later, Paige invited me to lunch. No legal talk, just food and catching up. "You know," she said, sipping her drink, "your case gets brought up in the office sometimes." I raised an eyebrow. "As what a cautionary tale." "As an example," she said, "of what happens when the nice one finally snaps." I laughed. "I didn't snap." "No," she agreed. "You woke up." That word landed heavy, because waking up hurts. It means accepting that love shouldn't feel like debt, that loyalty shouldn't bankrupt you, that family doesn't get a lifetime pass to disrespect you. One night, after closing the shop, I sat alone in the office and thought about my younger self, covered in grease, exhausted, still believing effort would earn affection. I wish I could tell her this. Being strong doesn't mean being silent. Being responsible doesn't mean being disposable. And the hardest truth of all, sometimes the people who raise you are the ones who taught you how to disappear. I didn't disappear anymore. I took up space. I spoke plainly. I charged fairly. I rested without guilt. And for the first time, my life didn't revolve around preventing someone else's disaster. It revolved around building something steady, something honest, something mine. I thought choosing myself was the end of the journey, until one final moment proved just how far I'd come. Some endings don't come with fireworks. They come quietly, in moments so normal you almost miss them. For me, it happened on a Tuesday morning. The shop was busy. Phones ringing, engines humming, the kind of controlled chaos I used to thrive in. Except now, it didn't feel like survival. It felt like ownership. One of my newer apprentices, Lena, stood under a lifted Mustang, hands shaking just a little, fresh out of trade school, smart, talented, still unsure she was allowed to take up space. She looked at me and asked, "Emily, what if I mess this up?" I didn't even hesitate. "Then we fix it," I said. "That's how learning works." I watched her shoulders drop in relief, and suddenly it hit me. This was the legacy, not the money, not the lawsuit, not even the justice. The legacy was creating a place where no one had to earn basic respect by bleeding for it. Later that day, while closing up, I got one last message from an unknown number. It was my dad. Short, awkward, defensive. I never thought it would end like this. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Neither did I, but it ended honestly. That was the final exchange we ever had. No closure speech, no apology tour, no redemption arc. And that was okay, because closure isn't something other people give you. It's something you claim. I locked up the shop, turned off the lights, and sat in my car for a moment, just breathing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't someone's backup plan. I wasn't the responsible one. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the silent provider. I was a builder. And everything I built from here on out would be rooted in choice, not obligation. If you're listening to this and it feels uncomfortably familiar, trust that feeling. If you're always the one holding things together, ask yourself who's holding you. Because choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you free. And freedom? That's worth everything. Have you ever been the responsible one in your family? Did you finally choose yourself? Or are you still carrying the weight? Drop your story in the comments. You're not alone.